especially right after awakening, I was really blissed out. And like with a lot of people, there's a first wave of being more deeply realized in the way you act and feel than you are afterwards, because then other things come back. I think a good point here would be something I made a video about that I called outsourced or explanted identity, where as the year progresses and you go to places you haven't been since this awakening and stuff, parts of you and ego crust and whatever comes back into your life that in that moment was not a big deal. And so you get clouded a little bit again, or very much so. And I am experiencing stuff like this. So right before, a year and a half before this awakening stuff, when I was 21, I figured out, and have since carried on figuring out, that I'm autistic, Asperger autism. And I went through this crazy, amazing phase of understanding, wow, how my life makes sense, and how a lot of my doubts about myself and a lot of issues had to do with not knowing this about myself. And I went through a big phase of changing a lot of things in my life and allowing myself to stim and not masking as much, and allowing myself crutches I didn't allow myself before. And all of that was really wonderful. And in some ways also a bit exaggerated, because it was just my first experience with that, and I was really leaning into it and exploring it. And then with the awakening, a lot of that fell away. And before awakening, with this phase of tons of meditating, there were times where for months, my roommate and I, best friend and roommate, both were meditating for like an hour and a half to 4 hours a day. And our home was this sanctuary, which of course, in many ways gave an appearance of being much more regulated than it is, though it was also dependent on this behavior. So then I stepped away from all of that, and through this awakening stuff, kind of went through a phase of like, oh, I guess I'm less autistic than I thought, because I was still in the momentum of all of that stuff. And now things come crashing back, and it's a dialectic, back and forth and through, and you learn more. And so now I'm having a lot of stuff come back that I haven't been doing for myself, that I do actually really need, at least now. And so I think it makes sense to talk about that, if not just for myself, but for the whole picture. And so recently I've been going, as in for 2 weeks, the past 2 weeks, everything has changed. I'm in a really happy, wonderful relationship that changes everything, though. It changes the relationship to for example, my best friend I was spending a lot of time with, and it changes my entire life. And for example, a relationship, a new job, having a child, all of these types of things are what can very easily trigger, for example, in my case, or in this case, autistic burnout, or in other types of brains, a manic phase or whatever. Big changes always do that, or have the potential to. And in my case, the past week, I've been noticing that I'm really crashing a lot and having insight, though, and working with it. And for example, yesterday, having a day where I just take the whole day, just regulate, and then everything works. Then suddenly also I'm all productive, and it just emerges because I have the capacity to just get my stuff done. And now I was having a big crash, very, very overstimulated. And then I just decided, no, I just need time for myself and to calm down. And I'm not talking about my boyfriend when I say just time only for myself. He's not a problem, or his presence is not a problem. It's a great help, without being a pressured necessity. But when I say time for myself, I just mean canceling all these appointments, especially for the way my brain works. When a plan has been made and it's in the calendar, it's like it's set in stone. And then I get anxious because I see the week and I'm like, even though it's maybe only one thing a day, it's still a thing where I know that I can't actually just fully relax. So now I just wrote to everyone and it was like, I need to cancel everything, and I'm having my moment and I need to be tiny and hide. And I always have really big expectations of myself, being afraid that I'm going to get abandoned because of that, and all of this core belief kind of stuff that I'm also revisiting, working on. And everyone's reaction was really nice because they have really good friends and family. And so it's a big learning process, and I'm really glad to have a really wonderful support system, and I need to not be afraid to use it, to tell them what's up, and take care of my little neurodivergent self.